Now, we've been tracking this economy and we've been receiving a lot of economic data. Now, this economic data that we've been looking at is what's really going on in the economy. We're not looking at the stock market. I know the corporate media is out there and they're just going, wow, look at the market. It's continually moving up. The economy's doing great. How high do you think it's going to go? Wow, this is incredible. This is not what this is about. I mean, if you go back to 2007 going into 2008, they were doing the same exact thing. They were pointing at the stock market. They were telling everyone how great it is. Look how high the market's going. It's hitting 14,000 something points. Do you think it's going to go even higher? In the meantime, what was happening is everything was falling apart in the background. Housing was tumbling apart. Companies were going bankrupt. There were layoffs all over the place. But again, the corporate media, they don't like to report on those type of things. Now, what we're seeing at this point is that they're trying to come up with excuses of why certain parts of the economy aren't doing well. And they don't like to touch on that too often. Like for housing, for an example. They like to say, well, since what Trump did with lumber tariffs, well, lumber is going to be the problem now for the housing industry. Now, number one U.S. home builder, D.R. Horton, well, they reported its slowest growth in orders in 3 quarters. Housing starts are running well below their historic average, and this is according to the data. And they're saying, well, it's because of the lumber costs, how they slightly picked up, and this is why we're having a problem. No, this is not why you're having a problem. The problem is that people are losing their jobs left and right. People have taken on part-time jobs, and now those service jobs, those retail jobs, they are coming to an end. That is the problem. So we've lost manufacturing, we've lost retail, and now the restaurant industry, where the food and service jobs that everyone was supposed to be getting, that is starting to slow. Now, of course, when everyone thinks about the economy, they think of the stock market, and people say, well, when is it going to collapse? When is it going to collapse? This is all ever people say. Because what they want to happen is they want to wake up the next morning, they want to see the stock market crash, and this signals the entire collapse of the economy. But the economy does not collapse that way. This is what a lot of people don't understand. And these same people who were in the year of 2005, 2006, 2007, when people were talking about the economy collapsing, when everything was going to come to an end, the housing market was going to take a dive, the credit market was going to take a dive, people were going to lose their jobs, people kept on saying, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? And then it finally happened. And then, of course, you never hear from those people again. The economy collapses over time. Each part collapses at its own time, and all the pieces come together at the same time. So let's take a look at what has been happening. We've been discussing retail. Now, in the beginning, people blame this on the weather. People blame this on, well, retail's not doing well because everyone's moving to online and everyone's shopping online. And we found out that that is completely fake. What has happened over time is that people lost their jobs. People continually lost their jobs. The unemployment numbers were manipulated to make everyone believe that the unemployment market was very strong. People were taking part-time jobs, which were counted as full-time jobs. People dropped off the labor market because they just really didn't want to work. No, they couldn't find a job. That's the problem. And as we move forward, we saw this situation get worse. Everyone said, well, we're no longer a manufacturing company. Everything moved into the service industry. Now that is coming to an end. When you start putting these pieces together, it affects everything else. This then affected retail. Retail couldn't survive because people don't have extra income to spend in retail. This is why you see stores closing. People said, well, what about housing? Housing is still strong. Really? Only in 20 cities. The rest of the country, they're just getting by. And now we've reached the height of the bubble. Actually, we surpassed the bubble of 2006, 2007. And now it's starting to come down and housing prices aren't doing that well. And in many areas outside of the 20 cities, there are houses for sale that have been on the market 8-9 months and the prices are coming down. All of these things add up to the collapse. When you see federal tax receipts, when you see state tax receipts coming in, and they're continually dropping. This is another sign, because that relates and that goes right into the forecast of the number of jobs. As we can see, people are losing their jobs. People are taking less paying jobs. That means less tax receipts are coming into the government. This is exactly what we're seeing. So when you look at this, you can see that the economy has been collapsing. Yes, did we get the stock market coming down where the Fed, where the news agencies, and everyone else can say, yeah, we've had a major problem? At that point, it is too late. There's nothing you can do at that point. And the economy didn't crash at that point. The economy crashed way before that. This is the only thing left that the Fed has. Now, the Fed decided that, hey, we're not going to raise rates right now. We're going to start our unwinding of our balance sheet very, very soon. This is what they've done in the past. They are watching, looking at the economy. They already know it's coming apart. I mean, we've had the weakest data that we've ever seen. And of course, they're saying, well, we've been waiting for inflation to rise, but it is much weaker right now. Not if you go to the supermarket. You can see fresh foods and things like that over a long period of time. Those prices have gone up. And what the Fed has been doing is they've been taking the inflation and they've been shipping it overseas. They've been putting it into the stock market. They've been putting it into the housing market. And basically what they've been doing is they're making sure that people don't realize what is really going on. We are seeing inflation right now, if you know where to look. And what's going to happen is all this inflation that they've been shoving everywhere else. Because remember, during the stimulus, what they've done was they created all of this currency, but they didn't let it out into the public. They kept it within the banking system. They kept it within the stock market. They kept all that money that they were creating in the housing market. They took that money that they were creating and they shipped it overseas. This is how they kept inflation down. They've done this on purpose. They didn't let this currency hit the public, because if it hit the public, it would be a disaster right now. And they know eventually all of this currency that they shipped all over the place, shoved into the market, shoved into the housing market, well, it's eventually going to hit the public. All these dollars are going to come back. And what we're seeing right now is that every time they've been, raising the interest rates, they had this rate hike, we've seen the dollar collapse. Remember, the dollar has dropped around 8% year to date. And we can see already that after the last two Fed hikes, what we've seen is that the dollar continually declines. It's not moving up, it is declining right now. Again, the US dollar, well, it is set to collapse. And as it does, inflation plays will be exploding higher. And we need to remember what is happening right now. Remember yesterday, the IMF already put out there that they're going to be moving most likely to China, which they're going to do a lot sooner than everyone thinks. We also need to remember that China is making bilateral deals with all these countries. They're establishing the Silk Road, the Belt and Road system, where they're going to have trade. And right now, the United States is completely left out of that. Yes, Trump did send a representative to the Belt and Road Conference because he does know, he understands that the United States is going to need trade with other countries. This is why he's establishing trade with the UK. This is why he's trying to bring back manufacturing. This is why he's trying to keep jobs in America, because we can't have manufacturing out in China, out in other countries. It has to be here in the United States, because think about it. When we transition into a new system, we don't have manufacturing, we don't have retail, we don't have the service industry. What is the United States going to be? It's going to be absolutely nothing. The only way you can survive is if you're producing something. If we produce nothing, and all the other countries around the world have manufacturing, and all the jobs are out in the emerging market, all the jobs are out someplace else, well, what are the people of the United States going to do? Because over the many years, we've just been consuming. We haven't been producing. Now we need to produce. And without bringing all this back during the transition period, United States will not be able to survive. And this is what the deep state has done over the many years. They stripped the United States of everything, and we're left with nothing right now. And this is the main problem, because how do you solve this in a short period of time? It's very, very difficult. So going forward, it's going to be a very difficult time through this transition period. I mean, this is not going to be a 2-month, 3-month type of transition. Maybe the beginning parts, the roughest part, might be within the 6-month time period. But past that, this is going to take some time to bring back the jobs, to bring back manufacturing, to reboot the system. Because, like I said, the deep state, the neocons, the central bank, they've had decades and decades of time to destroy the U.S., to set everything up for their globalist agenda. I mean, think about it. We were at the last stages of them setting up globalism, where they were bringing in refugees, blending all the countries together, getting ready and prepared to centralize pretty much everything, to give all the power to the banking industry, all the power to the corporations with the TPP, the TTIP. This is what they were preparing for. This was the last step, to have a court system that overruled the governments of every single country. And all of this is being unwound right now. And this is going to take some time. This is not something you can just do overnight. And this period of time that we're going to be in, it's going to be a long period of time. This is why we've been saying get prepared. This is why we've been saying get ready. Make sure you have food, supplies, cash on hand, gold and silver to retain your wealth. It's insurance policy, because we're going to go through this period and it's going to be very difficult. Just like when we came onto the system, many people don't remember. A lot of people were out of work. Government jobs, well, they really didn't exist. Teaching jobs, very hard to find. There was inflation all over the place. Wages were all being readjusted. And this is when we were coming on to a new system, coming off the gold standard. Now we're in $20 trillion plus in debt. I'm not talking about all the unfunded liabilities and all that kind of stuff. But let's just use the number 20 trillion. We're in so much debt right now. The federal tax receipts, the state tax receipts, they're barely making the payments on the interest of this debt. Can you imagine if the interest rates went up to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7%? It would be a complete disaster. We're at the end of the system right now, and we have to undo everything that the globalists have done over time. And this is the beginning process of all of this. And they're going to fight all the way to the end, because they don't want to let go of their old system. They want to keep it. They make a lot of money with their old system. The lobbyists, the corporations, the central bank, all this money is just flowing around. Why do you think all these individuals get so wealthy in government? When did you ever hear a government official become wealthy in government? Usually the government jobs were the low-paying jobs. Yes, you had good benefits. That's how they attracted people in there. But the pay was absolutely terrible. And you didn't become very, very wealthy being in government. Now, when you become a congressman or you become a senator, all of a sudden you become very, very wealthy. And you get perks like you've never seen before. Well, this is about to end. They don't want this to end. And this is why they're fighting so hard to keep their system. This is why the system is going to collapse no matter what they do, because their system is at its end game. This is why they're trying all these different things. And the central bank realizes that they can't keep the system afloat anymore. They realize that it's going to collapse. They like to control the collapse. And this is why they're playing with interest rates. This is why they're telling people they're going to unwind, because every little word they let out, they're trying to keep that market alive, the market alive. And as they set everything up and they, set the blame for Trump, you can see how this is all proceeding right now. This is why everyone needs to get prepared and ready for what is coming. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.